Okay, this is part 16, Your Amazing Destiny. Where does faith come from? Hello, everybody. I'm Jim McCotter. Welcome. In Romans 10, verses 14 through 15, quote, "But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? That is why the scriptures say, how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news." End quote. This verse does not say, but how can they call on him to save them unless they are predestined? And how can they believe in him if they are not elected? And how can they hear about him unless God chooses to let them hear about him? No, the verse doesn't say that. There is not one verse in the Bible that says that. God has done his work to save everyone, but now here God says 4 times how it is necessary for man to do something for anyone to get saved. Literally every sentence, Paul is challenging men to do what is necessary for anyone to be saved. To send, to go, to tell, to call, to believe. How beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news. Therefore, should not every believer want to be helping in some way to send others and also yourself to be a messenger who brings good news? Here are a few personal questions to consider. 1. What is the one thing certain to happen to everyone? Well, we know. Eventually, everyone will die. Number 2, what people do you know that do not personally know Jesus Christ, but you would like to see with you in eternity? Number 3, what can you do about it? Number 4, when and how do you plan to have them hear about the good news? Number 5, Jesus said, "Follow me and I'll make you fishers of people, of men." Romans 10, 16 through 17, quote, "But not everyone welcomes the good news. For Isaiah the prophet said, 'Lord, who's believed our message?' So faith comes from hearing, that is, hearing the good news about Christ." End quote. Now this verse did not say, but not everyone can welcome the good news. No, it said, but not everyone will welcome the good news. God has never said that he made it so only a few are able to welcome the good news, but rather not everyone does welcome the good news. "Lord, who has believed our message?" the prophet said. "Those who have been predestined by God? No. Those who have been elected by God? No." So, quote, "Lord, who's believed our message?" God says, "Those who hear." So faith comes from hearing. That is, hearing the good news about Christ. How does faith come? Not by God, but, quote, "from hearing," end quote. God has already given every person the innate ability to have faith. People have faith in themselves, faith in their circumstances, faith in someone else, faith in some other God, or they can put their faith in the Lord God, Jesus Christ. Now Romans 10, 18 through 20. "But I ask, have the people of Israel actually heard the message? Yes, they have. The message has gone throughout the earth and the words to all the world. But I say, did the people of Israel really understand? Yes, they did. For even in the time of Moses, God said, 'I will rouse your jealousy through people who are not even a nation. I will provoke your anger through the foolish Gentiles.' And later Isaiah spoke boldly for God, saying, 'I was found by people who were not looking for me. I showed myself to those who were not asking for me.'" End quote. Since Paul has been saying in these chapters that God has now turned away from Israel to reach out to the Gentiles, that begs 2 questions. And it's what the prophet said. "But I ask, have the people of Israel actually heard the message?" Yes, they have. The message has gone throughout the earth and the words to all the world. The second question the prophet asked, Did the people of Israel really understand? The prophet said, yes, they did. End quote. The people of Israel heard and understood the message. Zechariah said in Zechariah 7:11, quote, your ancestors refused to listen to this message. They stubbornly turned away and put their fingers in their ears to keep from hearing. They made their hearts as hard as stone. They made their hearts as hard as stone. So they could not hear the instructions or the messages that the Lord of heaven's armies had sent them by his Spirit through the earlier prophets. End quote. So God was turning to the Gentiles, and at the same time God is using this to eventually arouse the Jews to be jealous and come back to God. In both Romans 9 and 10, Paul keeps referring to the nation of Israel and Gentiles. Quote, I will rouse your jealousy through people who are not even a nation. I will provoke your anger through the foolish Gentiles. End quote. Now in Romans 10:21. But regarding Israel, God said, all day long I opened my arms to them, but they were disobedient and rebellious. End quote. God did not reject Israel, as some Calvinists think. Rather, Israel rejected God, as this verse clearly states. Quote, they were disobedient and rebellious. End quote. As for God, he said, all day long I opened my arms to them. End quote. What a mockery of God's sovereignty if God says of himself, all day long I opened my arms to them. But some Calvinists say, in God's sneaky, mysterious sovereignty, he manipulated Israel to be disobedient and to be rebellious. He really wasn't opening his arms to them. No, God forbid. God makes no one to be disobedient or rebellious. James 1:13 and 14 says, quote, let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Man first rebels and sets his heart against God, and then, for God's purpose, he may add to it, not to have them reject the gospel, but because they've already rejected it, where he may add to their stubbornness to help fulfill his glory like he did with Pharaoh.